Welcome to the Mount Pleasant Podcast, featuring discussions and interviews about the people, places, and events that make Mount Pleasant such a special place.
This is the Mount Pleasant Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Cleary, and all thanks to the great people of Mount Pleasant Magazine, I get the honor, the privilege of introducing you to Mount Pleasant, the people who make it such a special place to do business, to work, and even to live. We're introducing you to Mount Pleasant's best on the Mount Pleasant Podcast. When you think of running in Mount Pleasant, the first thing that may come to mind is the annual Cooper River Bridge Run, which of course is a big run. But the biggest first event of 2026 is coming up. It happens east of the Cooper, and it's an event that's being put on by the Charleston Running Club. I'm Brian Cleary, and today on the Mount Pleasant Podcast, we're joined by the president of that organization, Pat Welch, joins us. Pat, the first big run of the year, where and when will this event be held?
Well, it takes place on January 24th. Of course, it's Saturday. It'll be at Sullivan's Island, and we start and finish at the Fish Fry Shack. It's on Hennessy Street, in case people don't know where it's at, but it's a pretty famous little spot. And the Sullivan's Island Fire and Rescue Squad is nice enough to let us use the facility. Works excellent for a run. It's got outdoor venues, covered spaces, all the things that you'd want. And Sullivan's Island is absolutely one of the best places that we've run a run.
And everybody knows where that is because every June, that's where everybody heads to the Sullivan's Island Fire Department Fish Fry. So if you know where the Fish Fry is, you know where the event's coming up. Now, this is the Charlie Post Classic. Pat, for people who aren't aware, who is Charlie Post?
Charlie Post was a physician that was in charge of the College of Charleston youth athletic program. Charlie died prematurely in 1984. He was very, very instrumental in the running community in Charleston. I didn't know him at the time, but have gotten to know through his reputation. The running club started a run in his name, and this is the 41st year that's coming up now.
Wow, 41 years. If you're doing something for 41 years, you got to be doing something right. Now, I know there's two events with the Charlie Post Classic. There's a 15K and a 5K. If someone wants to be involved in the run, what do they need to do?
Well, if you want to run it or volunteer, you can go to charlestonrunningclub.com or charliepost.com. Either one, the running club gives you an array of choices as volunteers or running. In addition to the runs, in the last 2 years, the running club has started with walkers. And kind of amazingly, we've got about 10% of each one of our runs are walkers. And we give first, second, third place overall male and female awards for walkers. It's worked out real well. Our theory was that people start out walking, jogging, running, and then when they get a little older, maybe they run and jogging and walking. It's worked out real well for us, and it's a good run.
This is where the pages of Mount Pleasant Magazine come alive. It's the Mount Pleasant Podcast with me, Brian Cleary. Today, we're talking about the Charleston Running Club, the nonprofit organization that hosts runs throughout the year, including a couple east of the Cooper and one coming up in January, the Charlie Post Classic, a 15K and 5K event. Pat Welch is the president of the Charleston Running Club, and he joins me on the Mount Pleasant Podcast today. Pat, if somebody asks you about, and I'm going to do it right now, the Charleston Running Club, what's the running club all about?
Amazingly enough, someone just handed me the minutes of the first meeting in the Charleston Running Club. Was in November 1977, and they talked about having a fun run and a party with beer. I think it was with Terry Hamblin at the time. So it's come from that meager start to about 500 plus members now, and we host the James Island Connector run to 5 and an 8K. We host the Charlie Post, of course, the 5 and the 15. And then we have a Floppin Flounder. It's also on Sullivan's Island. It's a 5K. And in addition to that, the club supports the Bohicket Half Marathon and 5K. We volunteer a lot of times at Cooper River Bridge Run. We're packing their runner bags and also at the expo.
So if somebody listening, watching our podcast right now, maybe they're interested in becoming a member of the Charleston Running Club, what's the first step they need to take to join the club?
I would say go to charlestonrunningclub.com and it'll tell you everything you need to know. We have 3 classifications of memberships. We have a $20, which is for students and those that are over 65 and military. And then we have a $25 regular membership, which is for everyone else. And then we also have a family membership for $35. And that's also where they can volunteer. We have social runs, community runs, in addition to our certified runs.
So there are more events than just the runs themselves that you put on. You've got some events that happen during the week, some things that might maybe help me, train for a run, things like that?
You join, and the nice thing about joining, you meet other runners that are experiencing the same thing that you are. This is your first run or your 100th run. You've got a plantar problem or you've got a hamstring problem. It's good to hear other people tell their stories because you realize you're not alone. We also have a big breakfast that's catered at the bridge run finish line, and then we have a Christmas party every year. We have a Tuesday group that runs from downtown to Mount Pleasant and back, and then we have several informal groups that run. So it's something that's pretty much going on every week. So if you're interested in running, it's a good place to start.
Just to follow up on that a little bit, because I think maybe people here at Charleston Running Club, these guys are all serious runners. They're all about the bridge run and the Boston Marathon and whatever. If I'm a newbie, I don't necessarily have to feel intimidated. Maybe joining the Charleston Running Club is actually a good first step if I'm just starting running.
It's funny because when the newbies do show up, they get more support than the old guys. I didn't start running until I was 60, and I was scared to death to go out and make a fool out of myself. But I soon found out that there's a lot of other people just like me. Pretty soon, you become friends with just about all the people that are in the club. It's a great support group.
Well, Pat, let me follow up on that with you then. You just started running at 60. What was it that motivated you at 60 to go, okay, I'm going to start doing it?
Once a year, I would run the Turkey Day. And I got tired of feeling like that I was half dead running a 5K. So what I did is I went home and trained on a treadmill for about 2 months because I didn't want to embarrass myself. And I've talked to a lot of people who've done the same thing. You run by yourself until you know at least you can stay with the crowd. The thing that really interests me in running is, of all the runs that I've ran in the last 17 years, I've never experienced a disagreement or an argument amongst runners. And it's probably the only sport that I've ever seen that happen. The support is phenomenal. Everyone has a chance. It depends on how well you feel that day. It depends on who shows up. Maybe your nemesis didn't show up that day and you get first place instead of second. So there's always a place for everyone. It really is.
In 1982, it was East Cooper Magazine. Now it's Mount Pleasant Magazine. Mount Pleasant Magazine is about the people, places, and events that make Mount Pleasant a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Your community, your magazine. Mount Pleasant Magazine.
You're listening to the Mount Pleasant Podcast.
As we start the new year, maybe one of your resolutions is going to be to exercise, to get into shape, that kind of thing. Maybe you're thinking about running. Well, you've come to the right place. Today here on the Mount Pleasant Podcast, we're talking with Pat Welch, who is the president of the Charleston Running Club, a nonprofit organization that puts on some events throughout the year, including one coming up in January on Sullivan's Island, but also has weekly runs and is just a good place to turn to if you're thinking about getting and running. Now, Pat, for your long 17-year career, what's your biggest achievement, do you think, as a runner?
I ran 6 marathons. When I started, thought I could run 5K. It's incremental. You have to be patient. When your body says you shouldn't be running that day, then don't. Everybody goes through the same thing. They say, well, I'll run through it. And that doesn't work well. To have patience, and you'll be surprised that in a matter of months, how well you start to run.
Now, I've been a runner myself, ran track and cross country in high school. I think the longest run I ever did was 9 miles. I can't imagine 26.2. What's the feeling like that first time you were able to finish a marathon?
I think probably the same thing I had when I first ran my first 5K. Just let me finish and not be embarrassed. Actually, my first marathon was one of my best. I think because I was so keyed up and concentrating on not embarrassing myself. And a lot of new runners had that I've talked to had the same feel. And I think that the biggest achievement for me is to be able to run a marathon and go back and do it again and again.
You talk about how running is a different kind of sport, and one of the fairness of running and all the events the Charleston Running Club does, and just about every event, is the breakdown of age groups. So if I'm 60, I'm not actually necessarily competing with someone that's 20, correct?
Correct. A lot of people in the past would cut off the age groups. They'd start them about age 14, and they would have 5-year age groups through 60 and above. Well, 60 and above in Charleston is a very competitive group of people. And so what we've done is we've pushed our 5-year age groups to 80. In fact, I had a gentleman call me that just turned 85, and he wanted to know if we will have another age group. I said, absolutely, we will. So as the demand comes in, we will push the 5-year age groups as far as necessary. It's just unfair for an 87-year-old or 85-year-old to run against a 62-year-old person. It's just not right.
Now, you mentioned with the running club about how so many members of the club also volunteer and help out at other events. You've got some groups and organizations, some businesses that are supporters of the Charleston Running Club. Can you name some of the folks that help out the club?
The Charleston Running Club reaches out to a lot of the nonprofits. And, we've got the Charleston Animal Society. We've got Ladies Endurance, enriching the community. We've got the Alpha Kappa. We've got the Greater Grand Lodge of South Carolina. We've got maybe about 6 or 8 entities that step up and help us out. Amazingly, you don't see it when you run a 5K, but just the Charlie Post probably has a total of 60 to 75 volunteers. It's a lot of work that goes in for that 1-hour event, and a lot of planning and late night mixing Gatorades and making sure the medals are put in the right place. We have a checklist that's about 4 pages long to make sure we don't forget anything.
So with let's say the Charlie Post event, what time are you and the folks who are putting this event together, what time are you showing up that morning?
We've been fortunate enough with the Fish Fry Shack that we can come over on the day before and we lay out the course. In the past, it was required you show up at about 5 o'clock in the morning, you lay the course out in the dark, you set up the water. It was monumental. Being able to get to these runs the day before is wonderful. But we generally get there about 4:30 or 5 o'clock, and just to make sure that if we lay out the course the night before, which we do, to make sure that maybe a prankster didn't turn the sign in the opposite direction and things like that.
So, Pat, we've learned a little about you personally, that you started running at 60. You've been president of the running club for how long now?
I think this is my 3rd year. It seems like 30.
Well, on the Mount Pleasant podcast, we always try to get to know the people we're talking to a little bit more. So let me toss some questions at you. If you're going to have shrimp, Pat Welch is going to order up shrimp. What way are you going to order it? How are you going to have your shrimp? You're going to fry it? You're going to scampi? I mean, local shrimp, it's a big thing in Mount Pleasant. How do you like yours?
We'll put it in a frogmore stew.
Okay. The other big question that we always ask everybody, Carolina or Clemson? Which side of the fence are you on?
Well, I've got daughters at Carolina, Clemson, Duke, so I have to be kind of neutral with that.
Where was it that you went to school?
Charleston Southern.
All right. Charleston Southern University, a proud graduate here with Pat Welch. Now, Pat, one more time for people who may have missed it at the beginning or are interested, the Charlie Post Classic, when is that coming up, and how can folks get involved in that run?
It's January the 24th, which is a Saturday in January. The race starts at 8:30, and no matter whether you want to race or the run, the 5K or the 15K or walk the 5K, you go to the CharlestonRunningClub.com. or charliepostclassic.com. The charlestonrunningclub.com not only gives you all the information on that run, but it'll also give you the information on our social runs and memberships and sponsors, anything you'd like to know about the club.
And as the president of the running club, I guess you're kind of busy that day, so chances are we won't see you actually participating in the Charlie Post Classic.
That's the downside of being on the board. You get to work a lot, but James Island Connector, I never saw the first person cross the finish line. So it's a labor of love. We love doing it, and our goal is to have the highest quality runs possible and support the charities that we've chosen.
They're a big part of our community, even east of the Cooper, west of the Cooper, wherever, all across the Lowcountry. But a couple of runs that happen on Sullivan's Island, including the Charlie Post Classic that's coming up on January 24th. Pat Welch is the president of the Charleston Running Club. It's an organization, if you're all interested in running, and even if you're not interested in running, if you're interested in helping out the events, you're giving back to the community, go to their website and find out more about the Charleston Running Club. Pat, thanks so much for taking the time today and talking with us about the club.
Well, thank you for allowing us to share the club information with you.
We hope to have a big crowd out for the Charlie Post Classic. I'm Brian Cleary. This is where the pages of Mount Pleasant Magazine come alive. Thanks for joining me today here on the Mount Pleasant Podcast.
Thanks for spending your time with the Mount Pleasant Podcast. Your community, your podcast. Listen to past and future episodes at mountpleasantpodcast.com.